All right, let's jump into the world of women's issue and the women's panel. As always, thank you, ladies, very much for coming in. This is an interesting one tonight. We start with a statue that was erected down in Wall Street. We all know the charging bull. It's a very, very strong signature piece on Wall Street where people really be familiar. Well, someone put up a defiant girl statue right in front of her, standing right in front of her. Very strong pose she's in. And it's an interesting story because the people who put it up, actually, they are putting up as a way of looking at it that women are not, should be more involved in decisions down on Wall Street. But ironically, the group that put it up, they don't have many women in their company, in their board. So where do we start up? I guess first, this signature piece here in front of the big bull.
Yeah, I think it's interesting that something that's iconic that people look at and know as being representative of American culture and influence now has been co-opted a little bit to tell the story specifically for International Women's Day, and to talk about the role of women. And it's a really simple act that was done, this simple statue, without too much controversy. It just makes people pause and think about the role of women, especially in this economy and in the society that is represented by the bull.
I think we often associate Wall Street as being a very masculine and very aggressive kind of scene within New York. That it's very dynamic and it's men in suits and doing very important things, and that it often very much feels like it's a man's world. And I love the idea of not taking away from that, right? Not taking anything away from that bull, but in addition to having a girl, right? And a defiant girl, and the pose that she has, the confidence that she has in the face of that, I think can send a really nice symbolic message to the growing place for women and for acceptance within male-dominated arenas.
What I find really interesting, though, is that the original bull statue was actually installed as a protest, almost. It was installed illegally. That person who originally installed that statue didn't have consent to put it there. Whereas this girl has been put there through this organization and through this body. And it's a very interesting sort of, when you sort of think about that backstory, right? That this is not somebody putting the girl statue there in protest to sort of defy the bull, but it's sort of corporate America sending this message about itself. That's very, very interesting. It's also interesting for me as somebody who sort of has studied protest movements, because there's an interesting visual echo for me of some of the materials that came out around Occupy, right? And one of the iconic posters from the Occupy movement was a dancer balanced on the head, a woman dancer balanced on the head of the bull, right? And that was one of the really iconic early posters before the movement. And so it's interesting to sort of think about that image, right, of this woman balanced on the bull's head, that sort of symbol of defiance, but, sort of playful defiance, and then this use of the little girl standing up to the bull, right? So I find those two images really, really fascinating in contrast with each other, and it sort of really made me think about, the difference between sort of when an organization installs something like that and the message when it comes from sort of activists or people standing up to say, we think that women need to defy this system, right? So,
But State Street, they're the ones, the organization, put it up there, and ironically, they don't have much representation of women on their board. About 27% are that. So, it's I guess, are we all right with that? Is it just getting the word out? It's okay, even though they don't perhaps walk the talk that they're suggesting?
Well, I think we've talked about this a lot on the panel of just the role of women in leadership roles, whether it's on boards or in elected office, and the percentage that the UN says is you need 30% female representation in order to make decisions that represent women. So they're getting close to that, I would say, for their board. But there's always an opportunity, and I think even if they're bringing this issue up, they're saying that it's an internal need as well. I think that's an opportunity for individuals and organizations to reflect and think about how, what are we doing to fix the problem as well.
Yeah, it's a nice message to communicate. At least you would like to see kind of action follow through, that there be kind of consequences as well, that that there's commitment, that it's not just at face value, I'm going to put this up and people are now going to celebrate me because I care about representation or diversity, that there might be some actual thought to how it's not just projected out into the world. recognize this or do something else, but we too are a part of the conversation. So I think that's important to see.
Yeah, and so that's something that concerns me, right? Is it's very easy to sort of, whitewash the idea of women's representation, or sort of market your way out of the questions, the deeper questions about why aren't there more women at the top of these organizations, right? Why aren't there more women, not only on their board, but on lots of corporate boards? Why are there still so few women there? And it's very easy to do this symbolic thing that's going to get them a lot of positive press, but what's actually going to be the follow through? And I'm concerned that this is kind of we're going to talk nice, but we're not going to take real concrete action to change it.
Well, very well said, everyone. Let's take a quick pause here. When we come back, we're going to switch gears. Same women's panel, but we're going to talk a little bit about a situation happened where a man and a woman switched roles, signatures on their emails, and what happened next may or may not surprise you. We'll get into that next.